Welcome to the Energy Upgrade Podcast.
I'm your host, Vanessa, master biohacker and successful entrepreneur.
Your time is now. Your energy is your life force. You want to be able to magnetize your wildest dreams. You can and you will.
Welcome back to the Energy Upgrade. This is your host, Vanessa Grotman, and today we're going to be having a bit of a solo episode, a chat I want to have with you with regards to sickness and the body trying to get our attention. If you've been following me on Instagram, you may have caught my Instagram live that I did last week, actually, to share more on what the heck happened as soon as we came back from our European trip. And so I want to talk to you about this because I've witnessed in myself such a different posture, such a different thought track now versus even when I was, 4 years ago or even just 3 years ago. And I just thought it was interesting because I used to see sickness. So, even a cold, I used to see a cold like, a cold, nothing else. And now I have come to witness that every single time my body is fighting something, there is always something else it's trying to tell me. And it's interesting because now I notice that viruses, bacteria, bugs, whatever it is that comes in, gets in the way of my energy or my flow, is in fact just a very clever way that my body is able to finally get me to slow down and get my attention. And I just can't help but share a little bit more about what happened to me recently because I do believe it might be helpful for you to just have this new perspective. Now, I want to tell you and warn you that you might be hearing this and think she's completely crazy yet again. If you haven't thought that yet, well, what are you like? Are you even listening to this podcast? But the truth is, I really, really do believe in there's always a second layer. There's always a second meaning. I'm all about root cause healing. I'm all about finding the why. And when it comes to sickness, even the most silly, innocent things actually carry messages. And so if you want to come with me on this conversation, I think it might open up your awareness to something that perhaps nobody's ever talk to you about, because no, this is not the kind of conversation you have around a cocktail around the pool in summer, or this is not a conversation you likely will have with your friends or with anybody in your family either. This is the kind of conversation that people are whispering about and people are wondering, do you think that there could be a link? And so I'm here to bring it to the surface again as an opportunity for you to just wonder, contemplate. If it resonates, great. And if it doesn't, also great. So let's take a little trip back to our European vacation that was absolutely amazing. It went very seamlessly. And of course, jet lag always comes in the way, but we managed to keep ourselves, basically we kept ourselves at a 3-hour jet lag. We went to bed really late and enjoyed the full European, especially we were in France, the lifestyle of eating late. And the sun was setting so late there, like 10 p.m. plus. So we just stayed up later and we woke up later in the morning, like around 9. So it shifted our entire way of being, our entire lifestyle, but it was kind of nice. And so that also made for a much easier transition back into our regular lifestyle, which we enjoyed. And it was a lot easier to manage with kids. Now, we went to the south of France to visit my husband's brother lives there. And so we had some great quality family time. And then we went to Paris and surprised the kids. That was so fun. We did all the stuff, but we also had nothing planned. So it was very fluid. We just, went on different patios and had a little espresso and some fries, and we just enjoyed the life. And we even found some gluten-free croissant, and that was really yummy, even though it was €9. Yes. You heard that well. We left the place with like 60 euros worth of croissant and baguette, which I could not believe. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. And on the last day, we surprised our kids with going to Disneyland in Paris, which was also super fun, a lot more of a much more decent experience, I would say, a lot less hectic than when you go to Florida, and a lot more civilized, you know, a lot less waiting times, just overall great. And we went into this ride, the Hyperspace Mountain. And for those of you who listened to my live last week, you might have heard this story. So I'm going to go through it quickly. But we went into this ride, and usually the Space Mountain is like the super fun ride. We've done it in California, in Florida, and we always have a blast. But this one, we didn't know, actually is the only one that has twists and loops. And so we had no idea. So we just went in thinking it's going to be the same thing. And I don't know what happened in there, but it's almost as if my body went in shock. And trust me, I've done so many rides that go upside down on all the things, but it was the combination of this ride being in the complete darkness, basically surrounded by stars because it's a Star Wars ride, and this crazy super, super high music. And I got I don't know, I got this feeling of being so scared, and I was holding my daughter's hand and I started screaming, but not just like your regular scream, a scream I had never heard come out of my mouth. Like this deep belly, like basically it was coming from like my, I don't know, like it felt like it was coming from my uterus, literally. And it was like I had a full out of body experience. I screamed on the top of my lungs the whole time. I was hyperventilating, and I know I wasn't scared of the ride per se, but it's almost like I had a full energetic treatment in there. I had like a full somatic release in there. It's something to control of my body. And I felt after like I had released 10 years of buried fears in my body. Like that's how it felt. And I know it may sound absolutely cuckoo to hear this, but I tell you, that's how it felt. And on my way out of the ride, I could barely walk. Like my legs were wobbly and my eyes were teary. I just couldn't stop crying. And my whole family, they were like, "Are you okay? Like, what happened in there? We heard a voice. Was that you screaming? Like, what the heck was that?" And I was like, "Guys, I don't know. I just need to go and sit down right there. I need to sit down and I need to breathe for 10 minutes." And there was a patch of greenery. I thought, I just need to ground. I grounded myself, and my husband went and bought the picture from the ride. He's like, "I don't know what happened there, but we need a memory of this. We need a souvenir." So he bought the picture, which is now like a really funny memory. And so this is kind of at the end of the day. And after, I'm like, "Guys, you know what? I'm tapped out. I'm probably going to need to head back to the hotel, just like chill out before the fireworks." And so we decided to just walk back together, and like a series of like weird things start happening, and looking back, it feels like, I don't know, I entered this portal, like in the movies where, they have this spell like that, and then everything starts changing. Well, that's how it felt. Like I came out of this ride as if I had walked through a portal, and suddenly there was like a heaviness that just wouldn't leave me. Now, of course, I had screamed so hard that it felt like my throat was a bit scratchy. And so I just kept drinking water. But then weird things started happening. Like my husband got into a weird fight. Like, anyway, it was just like weird. And so we got into a fight. And the next day, same thing happens. And then we get into another fight. And then we have this 8-hour flight back home. And I'm just like trying to process all of this. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So we come back home and I go to bed and we all crash. And then the next morning I wake up and it feels like a truck literally ran me over and my throat is achy and my head is heavy and the entire left side of my body is just like feeling weird, like just achy. I have lymph nodes swollen in my neck and just like, what is going on? And barely anything on the right side. Now, just so you know, the left side of your body is the feminine side, and the right side of your body is the masculine side. So I thought, okay, isn't that interesting that my entire feminine side is like lit up right now, not happy, angry, something is happening. And so I thought, okay, I'm just jet lagged. I just need to relax. I wasn't hungry. So I did like a 24-hour fast, did all my things. Thankfully it was sunny. So I just, laid in the sun and tried to get as much sun exposure as I could, and try to recharge my batteries and my cells.
Are you on your journey back to you? Are you trying to cultivate more energy, more wealth, more heart, more alignment in your body, your mind, your soul? If so, that's exactly why I have created the Soul and Wealth Club. This club is a sacred membership for women who are ready to heal their bodies, their mind, and soul in order to live a life of purpose with more ease and flow. Now, the intention of this club is really to offer you a space where you can be in the energy of healing. You can be in the mindset of expansion. You can be and tap into the energy of possibilities once a month during our 2-hour virtual retreat, as well as ongoing messages that I will send you every single week with some deep activations also that you can do as meditations to anchor the knowledge. But really my goal with this space is to help you create aligned actions and momentum in your life, in your business, in your relationships, so that you can feel yourself expanding. There's nothing worse than the status quo in these days and age. We are each responsible for our own healing, our own growth and evolution. And so I have created this membership, this space where you can come in and tap in, be in a high proximity container surrounded by women who are all on the same journey so that you can really level up. You can really live this life of your dreams. You can co-create with me, with the woman in there, with the universe. And so that this club, the Soul and Wealth Club, can become your sisterhood, a place where you can not only rediscover yourself, but also feel supported doing so. Women are designed to heal and rise together. And so this place is for sure the place you've been craving. This is the room you need to be in to reach new levels of transformation. And the club is available at only $222 a month with a minimum of 3-month commitment, only because I want you to feel this energy for at least 3 consecutive months in order to feel a true shift in your life. And let me tell you, from the feedback and the comment of the women in the urn there, it's incredible. We are creating magic every single day. And this is, I can tell you, this is the room you need to be in if you're wanting to expand and rise this year. The link is in the show notes, and you can always DM me if you have any questions. I hope to see you there. All you have to do is sign in and you'll be in. I hope to see you there.
The next day I wake up and I'm even worse. I'm so tired. I can barely do anything. Thankfully, I had a really light schedule, so I do my coaching calls, but I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm like literally like a larva. I'm like walking from one couch to the next, napping here and there, drinking tons and tons of water, doing all my supplements, all my hacks. But man, there is something else that wants my attention. And that's when I'm like, okay, this is not just a regular bug. Like there is something else under this. And this is the whole purpose of this podcast. It's for me to shed light on how to start unraveling this when you are feeling off, when you are feeling sick, when you are feeling like okay, I have a flu, or I have a cold, or I have a sore throat, or what, like an aching low back, or an aching ankle, like whatever it is, the body is always trying to get our attention. And it just amazes me how every single time there is something for me to see. And so this time, I have no idea what I need to see, but I have also no patience. I'm really tired, and I just feel like I'm wondering, is this whole business worth it? Am I even helping people? Am I really being of service? I'm like reevaluating my why. I'm just wondering, because I've been going into these fights with my husband, evaluating everything in my life, and I mean everything, like my marriage. I'm rethinking where I live. I'm rethinking, is this really the right thing? Am I doing this right? And anyway, so it's basically a dark night of the souls. And if you've ever heard this, when you go through a dark night of the soul, it's no fun. It's no fun. You visit the darkest dark sides of you, and you just are in for a ride. You are in for a ride where you get to see your darkest places. And it's usually not pretty, and it's usually not fun. But, here I am, my entire left side, my feminine side is like screaming for my attention. And I'm like, okay, what is the ultimate sign of feminine energy? It's surrender. It's surrender. It's leaning in. It's trusting. So I'm trying. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lean into this instead of fighting it. I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to surrender. I'm going to open myself up to receive. I'm going to open myself to hear the intuition, hear the callings, and nothing comes. And then I wake up the next day, I'm feeling even worse, and nothing comes. Like there's no messages, and it keeps getting darker and darker. And then I'm like, there's this old part of me that think that there's something wrong with me, because this has been my storyline for probably 3 decades. There's something wrong with me. It's very deep in me. It's anchored since I was 3 years old. There's a series of events that triggered that belief that there's something wrong with me, that I'm broken, that there is something that is not normal. And so obviously that story creeps up. Like, how come I'm this sick? Like, how come I'm so wiped out? Like, I shouldn't be this wiped out. Like, what the heck is going on? The rest of my family has nothing. What is going on? And by the way, this is usually also a sign when the rest of the family has nothing. It's usually a great sign to look inwards and be like, okay, there is more to this, because the rest of the family should have the same symptoms as me. And if they don't, that means I'm dealing with something in particular that could be somatic, meaning something that I need to release. And so in this moment of weakness, going back to my old stories, and I say a moment of weakness, I don't mean it in a negative way, but I just mean this is my story. I had this moment where I stopped trusting. I was like, there's something wrong with me. What if I have X, Y, Z? And I started going down this black hole. And so I booked an appointment to see a doctor. And I didn't want to go to the doctor. And I knew that ultimately everything was okay with me. But I just felt like, you know what? I had this moment of weakness. I just felt like I had lost all my bearings. So I went there, and of course, to be told everything that I thought, that, this is a viral, it's not strep, or it's not anything else, and it's gonna go, and it's gonna pass, and you're okay, and all of these things are like, everything is looking normal. And anyway, had a great conversation, and ultimately I was glad I went. It just like basically reinforced the fact that that story has got to go. It has no truth in this reality and this life that I'm building right now. It doesn't hold any ground anymore. And it looks like I had to go and see that part of my story again. So, okay, so I'm releasing that. Okay, some energy is moving. The next day I wake up and I still have like a really shitty score on my Oura ring. I'm in the 30s. I've been like in the 30s all week, and usually I'm in the 90s plus. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there is really something. Like my body is really like fighting something in the background. Oh my God. And so Saturday, I'm trying to spend a lot of time outside. I'm like listening to some podcasts. I'm really trying to like lift my frequency, raise my frequency, like get out of this funk. And I finally have a conversation with my husband. I'm just like, I'm like getting it all out. It's like all the stuff that's been accumulating, all the nasty things I've been thinking. I'm just like, bruh, bringing him, and he's listening. And he's like, okay, you know, I hear you. And we have this conversation, and it just like, okay, it dissolves that part completely. And it's like, okay, that feels good. That feels so much better. So I go to bed and I wake up the next morning at the crack of dawn. It's Sunday morning. And at the time, I don't even realize it's the 7/7 portal. Okay. So Sunday was July 7th. I wake up at the crack of dawn and I come down in my office. I often do that. And I will start all my stuff like my PEMF. I have a whole ritual that I do in the morning. My sage and my Palo Santo, and I have all my lotions, and I put on like all my music, and I start meditating. And then it's like the top of my head just opens. And I start getting all of this channeling, like as if someone is speaking to me and telling me all the things that I needed to see, all the things that almost as if it had been like percolating all week for it to come out of me this way. And it just feels like this massive parting of the clouds. It feels like I can breathe and I'm seeing the light again. And it's like, this is what you've been avoiding. This is the thing that you have been trying to do, and it's not working anymore. And now my business is speaking to me, and it's like, you have not been giving me this, and you have not been doing this, and I've been asking you for this, and you are not doing it. So I am basically in this state of full-on channeling with my receptivity open to the max, and my feminine side like really surrendered. I'm leaning into the experience, and I'm listening. And then I'm starting to take notes, because it's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And, this whole thing lasted, I was sort of in this like high state of consciousness for about 4 hours, because I went down, it was about 5 a.m, and this went on until 9. And it's like all the pieces of the puzzle all came back and locked themselves back in, like and the light and the clarity and the space to breathe all came back. And then I looked at the day, and I'm like, and of course it is 7/7, which is such a powerful portal that is preparing us for the Lionsgate portal, which is August 8th, the day of my birthday. And every year that day, I cannot believe I was born on the Lionsgate portal. Like that blows my mind. But I know, I'm like, okay, this is my last month before I turned 40. This is the last month before the Lionsgate portal opens, which is a very potent portal of manifestation, like reclamation of your power. I mean, it's massive. And so I'm like, I'm smiling at the universe, and I'm like, okay, there you go. This is all the things that I had been burying inside of me, that I had been pretending not to see, that I basically avoided. It all came back roaring, but it's almost as if I had to go through 5 to 7 days of incubation and full on like fever and all these weird symptoms for it to come to fruition that way, for me to be able to see it and understand it and release it. So this is my story, and I'm sharing it because seriously, 4 years ago, I would have gone through something like this, and I would have been popping Tylenol and Advils to try and pretend it wasn't there, and just continued to push through. And this time I was really, because I mean, knock on wood, I'm rarely this sick. I mean, I think the last time was when I had COVID the first time, and it felt different, but this, yeah, it was similar in some ways, which is also why I knew it was viral. So anyway, I'm sharing this whole story, and thank you for listening if you still are here, because I think it's so important. And I see this with clients so often, that they are in this state of survival in their body again. Oh, I have a cold again, or I'm sick again, and all like, and every time I'm like, okay, but of course you're sick again because you haven't taken time to actually sit with this and ask yourself, what the heck is my body trying to tell me? Because your body knows before your mind. Your body is your antenna. It knows, it's the frequency reader. It's reading the barcode way before your brain. And so it knows if there's something that's off. It knows when you are pretending. It knows when you are avoiding. It knows when you are trying to hide, somewhere inside of your body. Oh, you know what? Shh, don't come out. You like everything is good now. Like, you stay where you are, right? And it makes me think of the movie Inside Out, which I think is so brilliant and such a beautiful um, way to put visuals on this whole thing. But your body knows. You can't pretend with your body. You might be able to get away with it in real life, but with yourself and with your body, it doesn't work, or it works until it doesn't. So my invitation to you is, the next time you feel under the weather, and sometimes it might be a 24-hour thing, sometimes it's fast, but there's always something you need to see. There's always a second layer. Yes, there's a sickness. Yes, you need to take care of your immune system. Yes, you need to take care of yourself and your body. But what else? What else? What triggered this? Why were you in this prime state to actually receive this virus or actually be affected by it? Because let's face it, our body is fighting viruses, bacteria, parasites all the time, 24/7. And so why were you in that state at that moment that actually made it that you were more receptive to it, that you weren't able to fight it off? There's always a reason. And I am so in awe with the body and its intelligence. Every time I'm blown away. And so it was important for me to bring this up, and it made me remember what my husband went through last year as he was going through this difficult duality, and where he was in his 23-year corporate career, really like, leading his big team and having all the accolades and doing really well, but inside really not feeling aligned with this work anymore, and not feeling aligned with the values of the company anymore, and just feeling like in such disalignment. And he was just sick all the time. He literally was sick from January until May, on and off. Like, basically like a 4 days break, and then he'd be sick again, to the point that I told him, like, you go and sleep in a different room, because you cannot, like, I can't be sick. But he had his own journey and his own awakening to have. And he had he had to be so sick that at one point he finally decided to lean in instead of fighting it, and be like, I think my body's at the end of it. Like, I don't think I can live in this disalignment for very much longer. It doesn't work. Right. And this is also what happens. We know now with cancer, for example, we know that it's 8+ years in the making due to disalignment in the body, when we are pretending, when we are avoiding to deal with things, when we are stashing, accumulating traumas, unresolved emotions, when we are just pretending, piling it, and pretending it wasn't there. And we know that it starts creating miscommunication, misfiring between the cells, and that matters. It is important. And so when we are sick, can you please now, moving forward, actually open yourself, and instead of fighting it, actually leaning into it, instead of resisting it, opening yourself and asking, okay, what else is there for me to see here? What is the opportunity? Because I do believe every time we go through a sickness, and especially when there's fever involved, we get to evolve. We get to have a bit of an upgrade. And no, it is not a fun upgrade to go through, but the truth is, it's creating a massive upgrade inside, because all the cells, all the zombie cells that that are sluggish, that are not able to actually go and hold the fight, they're going to die. And so that creates this autophagy, this like rapid cellular transformation of death and renewal inside of the body. And that is important. That is needed. And so I do think that every time we go through some sickness, that there's an upgrade on the other side. And I invite you to see it that way. I invite you to lean in, and I invite you to ask yourself, go deeper. What are you avoiding? So I hope that my story and the one of my husband is opening up some awareness for you. That was really my intention today. And it wasn't to be like, oh, I was sick and I'm the only one in the world to be sick. I know we all go through difficult times. And so it wasn't at all about that, but rather, okay, here it is again. I got my lesson and I got my messages at the end of it, because also I had a moment where I stopped trusting. Then I was shown that it was safe to trust. So that was my point this week, and I hope that this is helpful. And if this episode is useful, if you think that someone maybe in your family, some friends would need to hear this, please forward this episode to them. It's always helpful when we are able to spread the love. And if at all you enjoy the content that I'm bringing here week after week, I would love to read your testimonial. If you would take even just 30 seconds to rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, it helps me rank and it helps make this podcast more visible and available to more people, because this is my goal. This is my why. This is why I'm doing this, is to make this kind of these kind of conversations and this kind of content more readily available. Because, the conversation we had today, I know that someone needed to hear this today, and this is why I'm doing this. So thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to see you again for another powerful episode next week. Sending you all my love. Bye for now.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grotman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.